Welcome to the Awakened and Aligned podcast, where we connect with awakened and aligned people. And I don't know if you guys know here on the channel, but you may have seen a theme with my guests. I get a lot of requests to be on the podcast, and it's actually something very dear to my heart who I bring on, because there's kind of, if you've started to notice, kind of a little bit of a behind the scenes on who I decide to bring on. I don't have weekly episodes. That's for a reason. The Awaken and Align podcast is a very special place that we can come to and awaken our souls to a deeper level. And in this experience, I want to know that I have truly been awakened by the guests that I bring on. And today's guest is really special for multiple reasons, but really in how I connected with her. It was actually the book launch for me. Return to You came out a few years ago, and we had the same publisher, Sounds True, at the time. And I remember just seeing her light in the world and how she was kind of galloping through life. And I could tell that both with her branding background and what she was doing, because she had a branding agency, but also the spiritual energy that was like coming from a force of fierce within her that was like rising. It was like a Kundalini rising, if you will, just all energy. And we connected on her podcast, and it was like sometimes you meet people and you feel a connection. But this was like a soul piercing life connection for me, where even though I had never really talked to her, I felt like my spirit knew her from lifetimes ago. And it really was this special moment. And it's not one of those friendships that you have to touch in all the time, but you're with each other on the path of your highest truth. And that is who I have today with us. I'm so excited to bring Jessica on. She's such a beautiful soul on this planet, and she has a new book coming out. But today we're going to talk about a lot of different topics. Her brand new book is The Light Work, and she's coming out in August. And how amazing to have you here. Gorgeous. Thank you for being on the Awakened Aligned podcast.
Thank you for having me, Shannon. I have tears in my eyes just to feel, one, so seen, and two, so connected to a fellow soul traveler on this earth plane, and to have found each other in this lifetime has been a gift to me as well. And thank you for seeing me. I saw you immediately, and here we are again. So I'm just again beyond grateful to be with you today.
Yeah, there's a lot going on the planet right now. And let's just dive in. Let's dive into our conversation today, because, you're talking about being seen. And I think that that's something we all really, really want and crave, but we don't always feel. And I'd love to hear from you in your own words, kind of your path on being seen and really what's shown up for you.
So, I'm a star seed, which, as I define it, as somebody that's never fully felt like they belonged here, because we're not necessarily from here, or being here has been painful. And, as I grew my career as an entrepreneur, I just so happened to get really good at social media and marketing and branding from a very early age, or the early stage of that whole world exploding, and just poured myself into the space through my businesses that I've built and run. And during that exact same journey of building a business, I was really starting my spiritual journey. And I believe that you can only grow your business to the extent of which you grow as a person, especially if you're an entrepreneur, or even if you are just working for a company and growing your own career in that direction. And it's all beautiful. And I have just been through a lot of rock bottom, dark nights of the soul, as I know you have too. And with each moment, whether it was in romantic heartbreak, or, financial failure, or being rejected by friendships, throughout my whole life, I really accepted the assignment, whether I was conscious of it or not, to go into those experiences and not around. And it's continued to activate my light, as you call it, as I define it. That's where we find our brightest light, is in the deepest of the depths. And, I was on a call the other day, and I know you'll appreciate this, with Koya Webb, Michael Beckwith, and Danielle Page, who are, spiritual thought leaders of our time. And I'm doing an event with them with the launch of this book. And we were preparing for this event on August 8th. And Michael Beckwith says at the end of the call, Michael Beckwith, he says, "Hey, Jessica, how did you get all of these amazing light worker people all around you? Like, how did you attract all these people?" And I said, Michael, I think we are all here for the same reason. We're all here for the same mission
Mm,
to return to the source of the truth of it all, which is love.
mhm.
And we all just happen to do that in different modalities and based on our own unique DNA and gifts. But
Yeah.
when we do that out loud and we allow ourselves to be seen, to answer your question,
Mhm.
we find each other
Yeah.
and there's power in numbers and it continues to amplify our confidence to
Yes.
step forward and be seen.
Yeah, that's so beautiful how you said that. And that's wonderful too, because I Michael Beckwith has wrote the foreword for your next book. And I think that's beautiful too. When you read through the book, you see that there's this element of embodiment that you have,
Yes.
in this, and I like that you talk about the rock bottoms because it's almost as these rock bottoms kind of happen in your life, there's a deeper awakening and a crack that happens that allows you to rise even more into your authenticity. And I want you to talk about kind of that aspect of you can't really have one without the other. So there's so many people listening that feel like they're stuck and this is how
Yeah.
it's going to be. And then they see
Yeah.
people, maybe, you, me, people who are rising above and using that as this courage. So what would you
Yeah.
say to the people who are feeling like they are stuck and you have
Mhm.
now gone on the other side of that? So just talk to that.
So you use the word embodiment, and thank you for that reflection because that's my word for the year, embodied.
Ah, beautiful.
And
It's perfect. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
it is perfect. It's like, you know, done a lot of the work, alchemized, transmuted. I'm here now. And, I just want to click into that word stuck because it does come back to the body. I believe it all is about the body, our brain, our DNA, our energy, our emotions. It all lives in the body. And in order to really move through things, we have to move it out. And for a lot, or some people are stuck in their feelings and there's not, the opportunities they're giving themselves to just simply feel their feelings, which helps to alchemize and move things through. There are people who leave their bodies. Hi, I was one of those people for so many years of my life because it's
Yeah.
painful to be here. And we can disassociate and we can find soft addictions or even use spirituality as a form of escapism, which I talk about in my book. So I would just encourage that person listening to ground into their bodies and nothing is wrong. There is no shaming the jealousy, comparisonitis, fear, insecurity. This is all information for you to work with, to move through, to allow yourself to feel it in order to release it, which allows us to heal it.
Hmm.
And know that, I get asked to speak on a lot of podcasts, stages. I know you do too, Shannon. And I always say that any single person listening right now, any single person in this audience of this stage could stand up here too and tell their story. We all have something unique to give to the world because there is only one you. There's only one timeline called yours that has been through the trauma and the heartbreak and the loss and the family system and the schooling and the friendships and the careers, no matter what that looks like, because it's yours and only yours, that has a value. And if we can really click into honestly, our story and really start to glean the wisdom that we have gained and make that part of our message while also acknowledging not to bypass that there's going to be fear and maybe imposter syndrome that comes up with that and to allow yourself to really be with that, to not reject it, not to lock that away, but to bring it forward and to learn how to love it. I have this chapter in my book called The Light Work, but first a word about the dark. And my approach is not toxic positivity and spiritual bypass. This is about claiming all of these fragmented parts of ourselves and looking at them and learning how to love those parts of ourselves and hold those parts of ourselves as sacred calls for our attention and our care.
Yeah.
So,
It's so beautiful. And if you can't see, Jessica has her hand on her heart right now too. And I feel that. I love that. I like to, when we place our hand on our heart, it also connects us, inward and we connect into this space. You said something so powerful. It's about taking our story, right? And owning it. And I think sometimes we get in our head about like what that looks like. And everyone's path is unique. But one of the things that I have found and what I'm seeing for you, and I had an opportunity to read the book ahead of time. And before, I always like to read the light work is gorgeous because it does talk about the dark, and you talk about how you need the dark and you must go through the dark. And that's one of the reasons we resonate so much, because I don't think we're afraid of the darkness at all. In fact, we bring the light to the dark, and the light kind of allows us to see, but we also learn from the dark. We realize the darkness is something that we can learn from. These amazing rock bottoms that cause these huge spiritual awakenings, but there is a trauma that is involved with each one. And I think to own that trauma and not be a victim to it is something that I see you do so well. It's something that I've learned to really kind of go into. But in that experience, for anyone's listening, the things that are happening to you, they almost can become, like you shared, Jessica, this purpose that allows us to. I hear a lot, well, how can we get over trauma? How can we get over pain? And a lot of the times it's to be of service. And you talk in your book, one of my favorite chapters is where you talk about kind of alchemizing that trauma in a way that you understand it. So it, just like you just shared, it's part of your journey. Helping
Yeah.
others then becomes, it's just like the 12-step program, right? Like, I will now pass on, I don't remember the exact step, but it's like I will now share what I know. That is also part of our healing. And when we do
Yeah.
that, there's a deeper sense. And I would love for you to just unpack that part of the book and just talk to that
Yeah.
and how you've seen it in your own life. When you do share, it's like this whole new awakening happens.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I think it's important to share amidst my very quote unquote successful career, that there was a part of my journey actually at 33, about 10 years ago, where I went financially broke. I had a business I was running for 7 years that just ended up leaving me in $75,000 worth of credit card debt, and no money in my pipeline, and negatives in my bank accounts. And I had to ask my parents to help me pay my phone bill because that was the one thing I needed, and AT&T was going to shut me down. And so that left a trauma response in my body. This real physical PTSD
Yeah.
of going financially destitute. And I, I've had a really interesting relationship with money. Obviously, we all do. But for that period of my life that led me up to that moment of financial breakdown, I can see in hindsight that I was really operating from this place of self-service, like what I could get versus what I could give.
Mm.
And I really did turn that on its head when I started my agency and really clicked into how can I use my gifts to be of service to the world, and really see money as a circulation and an energetic exchange of both my value and this person's, gifts to amplify, because I help people build their personal brands with my agency. And I just feel like when we're in service, like it is the highest vibration of the human experience. It is really no better frequency than to be of service. That opens up and expands and amplifies our heart space. And if we could all really come from that, like I call that 5D consciousness, new earth,
Yes,
when we're
yes.
truly contributing and collaborating and in community and showing reciprocity in every single exchange. And my second layer to that around money was really learning how to feel safety in my body, that
Mm.
as I gave and even as I received, I could hold it, and that I was worthy of it, and that I was safe in my body, not in a constant survival mechanism. Because when I launched my second business, it started making a bunch of money. It led me to burnout.
Mm.
And part of that, in hindsight, looking back on that chapter of my career, was like, oh, you learned how to serve, you learned how to make money and do it, with confidence, but you were still in a survival vibration from that trauma, from that
Yes.
scarcity moment.
Yes.
So there's a beautiful chapter in my book called Abundance, Rewiring Money, Rewiring Your Abundance Codes, where I talk about the 8 divine feminine embodiments of wealth. And it's one of my favorite sections of the book.
Yeah. Oh, it's so beautiful. What you shared too is this idea, and I see so many of us, there's this lack mentality, like you said, or this survival. That is very
Yes.
3D. I would love for you to just talk for a moment about 3D consciousness and 5D consciousness because we kind of live in this space. But for those of maybe just stumbled upon this, give a little bit more
Yeah.
explanation there. And also, you mentioned at the beginning starseed. Yes, we very much resonate. But for anyone listening, like, what's a starseed? Let's just go there,
Yeah, I'll break this all down. I have a glossary in the beginning of the book called The
which I
Language
love.
of Light. So thank you. It was a really fun part to put together because I was like, I don't want people to stop and be like, wait, what is she talking about? Just refer to the beginning of the book when I mention these words. So I'll start with 3D and 5D and then I'll circle to starseed. So 3D is the dimension that we are in right now that is, made of matter, physical density. I feel like it is a dimension that is one of many quantum dimensions in the universe. So this is the third. And we are really creating this hologram in the 3D projected by our minds, not our hearts, but our minds. And if I can, speak some truth, at least how I see it, I believe that the 3D is somewhat being controlled by the I also call it the matrix, right?
Yeah.
And there are these sort of systems of power and systems of control that want humanity to stay, back to the word we were using, stuck in their disempowerment, their fear, their sickness, so that we can stay in control, be controlled. And it's this construct with the vibrational baseline of fear versus love and infinite possibility. And that's what I call 5D reality.
Mhm.
And we can create 5D reality, yes, with our minds, with our thoughts, with our beliefs, with our actions, but it really does come down to the heart and really moving through life with this frequency of love and the values of love, which are harmony and oneness and empathy and compassion for all, where everyone in a 5D society can thrive
Yeah.
versus 3D, which is back to more survival, me versus you, separation, which is an illusion. And, Joe Dispenza talks a lot about the quantum field, right? And that there's 3D matter, here in this reality that we think is the only truth, but it's not.
Mhm.
It's just one projection of one nuanced version of reality. And 5D is not something out here. It's not something up in the stars. It's not something out in the universe. It's available to us with each waking breath, with each waking decision of
Mhm.
how we decide to approach our lives every single moment of the day. And
Yeah.
so 3D is basically a construct of the mind and fear. 5D is an experience in a world designed by the heart and by love.
Yeah, as you say that, back to what Michael Beckwith had asked, how did you get all these light workers and these thought leaders around you? To me, it really feels like they're living in the 5D and we're all living on the same
Yeah.
plane at the same time. And so even when we say, oh, we're in the 3D, I think it's a conscious choice and an awakening that we're accessing by choice, but also when you say the star seeds were kind of put here on planet Earth, and you talk in your book about being available, like we're here to crack it open and lead the way, but it also becomes a very process. See if that were, yeah, there we go. It becomes a hard process because it becomes very lonely. And so where I'm going
Yes.
with this is on the path of awakening. You know, it can be very lonely because
Yes.
you're surrounded by people you were unconscious, and it's like the veil has been lifted, and
Mhm.
you all of a sudden are around people who maybe are still stuck in that consciousness of I'm stuck, I'm a victim to my life circumstances, I only know how to
Yes.
manipulate my outside reality. So, in your own personal life, how has that
Mm.
shift? How have you been able to maintain the shift of staying in that love consciousness? You embody it. It's a choice, but it's also there is no other choice once you access it. And I feel that for
Yes.
you, and I know that that's how I've been in my life. So there is a lot of backlash though from people around you, and I want to know and talk to you about kind of that pulling away because there's still this
Mhm.
consciousness of people who want you to kind of be back in that energy, but we outgrow sometimes the people we're around, and then just unpack this.
Yeah, it's a really big question. And I don't think any of us ever reach a destination with this because as we continue to evolve, people are not always, I have an expression like vibe up or vibe out, right?
Yeah.
And it's as your vibration increases, it's it's physics, like attracts like, and things will
Yes.
repel that are not like itself. And it's easy to say, cool, vibe up, vibe out if it's like an Instagram troll, like delete, I don't need you in my field. I bless you and release you. It's very different than say when it's your parents,
Yeah.
or your partner or your
Yes.
best friend.
Yes.
Um, and so I'm very blessed that one of my core values is sisterhood. I have a very beautiful tribe of women around me. And going back to that Michael Beckwith comment of how did you attract all these people? It's because I'm being it, and I'm
Hmm.
attracting a lot of I have attracted and called in a lot of really beautiful friends that are on my spiritual wavelength. I've also sought out communities and gone to retreats and joined memberships and read books and followed podcasters that I feel like even if I don't know you personally, I feel seen and I don't feel alone in this journey, that I know other people like me are out there.
Yeah.
Um, I'm currently going through exactly what you just described with some of the closest people in my life who are wanting me to stay in this way that makes them feel safe, that are in victim mentality, that are very triggered by my activation.
Hmm.
And I'm literally in a very hard sort of situation right now with the closest people in my life. And I'm seeing my therapist a lot. I'm talking to my friends. I'm relying on my tribe.
Yeah.
And I'm doing my own work to call myself forward into what I'm really doing, who I'm really being this all
Yeah.
for, which is the highest timeline of all,
Yes.
and trusting that that dissolution of relationship will reorganize itself as it needs to, whether that's us coming back together and being as close as we once were or not.
Yeah.
Um, feeling the feelings I was saying earlier, like crying, getting angry, feel like do not repress the sadness and loneliness and frustration that comes up when people reject your personal evolution. That's hard.
Yeah.
Um, but you don't have to take on their stuff as your own, and to continue to do your own work on healing what's happening now, maybe even what happened when you were little.
Hmm.
And that is, you
For
know,
sure.
your light work to do.
Yeah, that is the light work. And it's interesting to have that process because in your book you talk about, thank you for sharing that too. And I'm right there with you. Every time, to be on this path, we're committed to personal growth and to being of the highest timeline that we can sign up for possible. And we invite those around us to do it as well. And if they're not ready, it's okay, but we still love. And I think from what you're sharing, there's this love in our heart. But in your book, I remember reading the part where you said, when I first pitched the book, there was some
Yes.
publishers that came back and they were like, light, the word light, because the book is called Light Work. Beautiful title. The publishers came back, some editors said the word light, quote unquote, is problematic. And I thought it was so interesting because that is kind of what we're seeing with that 3D, 5D consciousness split, if you will. And you kind of dissected it a little more. It can be threatening to people, but it's not because they're actually afraid of your light that you're shining. It may look like that on the conscious top level, but really they're afraid of their own light and the unexpressed aspects within themselves. Let's talk to
Yes.
that.
Yes, I'm so glad that you brought that part up, because I almost was like, do I include this in the book? But I was so triggered by that. I was like, what do you mean light is a problem? I'm not allowed to
Right.
use that word?
Right. Yeah.
And
You're like,
how can
but that's
something,
so
yeah,
beautiful and
it's the most
loving.
beautiful, it's the most universal truth that lives within all of humanity. Like, how can that
Yes,
be a problem? And I was
exactly.
like, oh, that has nothing to do with me. That your
Mm-hmm.
projection of me is a reflection of you.
Mm-hmm.
And my reaction to you is an awareness of me. So I can take that and get mad and feel like, wait, and question, is there something wrong with this word? And am I being, I don't know, irresponsible, whatever. But I was so clear that, and it's not just in that exchange with that one publisher, but with, I'll speak from my own timeline. I've had a lot of, unfortunately, but also they've been gifts, so I guess you could say fortunately, like women friendships, women in business that have really hooked into me with some real toxic stuff, typically jealousy, typically wanting to keep me small, typically not wanting me to shine so brightly. And through my own light work, I have been able to truly see that they wanted they were afraid of their own light. They were afraid of being seen and playing so big and standing in the, the spotlight, which I happen to just do very comfortably because I'm a Leo. But I
Wonderful.
know it's part of my personality. Can't help
Love
it.
that.
But I was like, there's something that they don't have a problem with me. They have a problem with something inside of themselves that they're making me wrong for because they themselves haven't healed that yet.
Yeah.
And I'm just a projection.
Ooh, so good. Like highlight that and bold it and make it a mantra, right? As you said that, we can use that on ourselves as well. If we're having problems
Yes.
with other people, if we're feeling triggered
Yes.
by other people, we are all just, as Ram Dass says, walking each other home. But it's this, when you said that, it became so clear that everybody on the path, and even the people we were just talking about, when you're kind of like bouncing out, it's not about us at all. On the outside, we all think it is, but really, it's always about for you on your journey or them on their own. That is huge and monumental. I've seen that in my life many times. I love that you share this. What's also really special about this is I know you and I both have this. Anybody who kind of gets a published book has to kind of have this mentality. It's not really a rejection. You had people who said, no, this isn't a right fit. Every time I get a no, it's not a right fit, I'm like, well, you're not the publisher for me. I want someone to believe in this
Correct.
book. And then you find the perfect one. You're like, yes, you know,
Yes.
and
There's
I
no better
think
feeling.
it's the path you're on. So I just want to highlight that how beautiful it's this light within us. And so if we can start to realize there are unexpressed aspects of the light within us, even us, when you're teaching in this book and sharing that we are all kind of accessing a love, there's always more layers to go. And I think that's where it's beautiful to open up to that it's never undone. And so each next layer, it's like, where are you at now in your journey of, I know you're in the process of like, this is the book, I'm getting it out in the world. There's a lot. And I know so much goes with that, with the PR and the marketing and traveling. But on a spiritual level, Jessica, from friend to friend, how are you
Mm.
doing in your soul?
I really love this question, and I thank you for asking me, friend. I will tell you as my friend. Um, you know, I had I got my hard copy a couple months ago in April, right? And you know the experience when you write the book, you submit the draft and then you send it to the editor, and then it's another month or two before you get it back with the developmental edits, and then there's another round of edits, and basically you're away from your book for a few months at a time in each sort of round of edits. At least that's kind of been my
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
So I get the book in the hard copy arc about, I don't know, 2, 3 months ago. I was so excited. I hadn't seen it in, so long. And here it is in the flesh. And I go up to bed and I'm reading my own book. So excited to read my own book.
I love that.
And right, that was like a moment. And then as I was getting into this book, I started sweating, literally perspirating. My stomach started flipping. My heart started beating. I was like having a small anxiety attack
Yeah.
because I couldn't believe that I had written this naked,
Mm,
raw,
yes.
exposing version of truth of my life. And I had all this kind of regret around it. I was like, I can't believe you're sharing this. So, point being, I got up the next morning. I do what I often do, and I went to my altar and I sat down in lotus position and closed my eyes and asked spirit for a message like what do I do? And I heard spirit say to me, this has not never been about you. Your job now is to get out of the way.
I just had like full
Because
body goosebumps when you said that. Yeah. I felt
I
it.
mean, that was straight from spirit.
Yeah.
And I I channeled this book in 3 months. I actually wrote it in 3.5 months. It poured out of me.
Amazing.
I did not use, I like to say I did not use AI or a ghostwriter. Like I wrote every word, but it was like my channeling.
Yeah.
And so to answer your question, where am I in my soul right now, Shannon? I'm just simply trying to stay in that vibration of the vessel
Yes.
and just be the light worker and
Mm-hmm.
to embody the light worker that I am teaching other women how to be.
Yeah.
And not getting caught up in the, email sequences and many chat funnels and all the things that go into promoting a book. I'm
Yes,
like, this is
you're doing
just,
amazing though.
this is,
I
thank
noticed
you.
when we showed up
I'm
today, you were
trying.
so present and there was such a, we talked how you went into the sun this morning and there was like this natural kind of like, yes, I just got back from a trip from Mexico and you were so present. And I noticed when we connected before, you were in business mode, like let's do this, right? And I think every time we touch in, there's a deeper, again, embodiment. But I want to say too, it's a beautiful thing for us as sisters to come together because what I'm sensing is there's this deeper awareness of the divine feminine. That's a lot of what your book talks about. And I would
Yes.
love for you just to kind of talk about the rise of the divine feminine and how that is
Yeah.
showing up in the world and how we can actually activate that more. That's really the essence
Yes.
of the book.
One of my favorite topics. I mean, the book is called The Light Work, Reclaim Your Feminine Power, Live Your Cosmic Truth, and Illuminate the World. So, I'll zoom up and then I'll zoom back down. So, I did quite a bit of research around this book. I mean, my trip to Egypt that I took at the end of 22, that's also a big through line throughout the book, really set me on this deep path to understand more of the true roots of the feminine. And when we look at the history of time, the planet Earth is, or Gaia, as we both call her,
Yeah.
is 4 billion years old. Um, the patriarchy, as we call it, which is really just when history started getting written down on tablets and text, started to happen around 4,000 years ago. Humanity began to evolve around 100, they say 100 to 200,000 years ago. So if the planet's 4 billion years old, humanity has been around for 200,000 years, but we've only been able to understand history in a 4,000 year period. What happened before 4,000 years? That's a drop in the bucket in the history of time on this planet. And through my research, I discovered that we actually lived in a matriarchal system, that the entire construct of Gaia was run by the women of the planet. We led tribe sacred ceremony. We created the calendar. We created pottery and textiles. We not only raised families, but we could attune to the seasons, so we would be able to tell the men when to go hunt. I mean, there was the worship of goddess, not God, but the goddess. And through the patriarchal text, she was actually written out, destroyed, oppressed, repressed, but truly just written out, obliterated, forgotten. So the rise of the divine feminine, as we see it today on the planet in 2024 as women, there is this stir that is happening within us. There's this awakening that is happening in ourselves, whether we can articulate it or not. And looking around at the way that the planet has overvalued the masculine, right? With domination, control, competition. Now, those are like extreme values of the masculine. The masculine is divine. We need the masculine too. We need both in equal harmony. That's what
Yeah.
sustains life.
Yeah.
But when I was in Egypt, I'd love for your listeners to go read the book, but I'll give you a quick little nod to the opening story was when I was in the temple of Dendera, which is Hathor's temple, the goddess Hathor, who's the goddess of bliss, pleasure, play, frequency, fertility, ultimate feminine expression. And I got struck by white lightning in that temple. It's a true story. Crazy things happen to you in Egypt. You're not on drugs. This is real. You have these experiences. And I was opened up, my entire field was opened up to basically this galactic doorway. And I had all of these messages of the Pleiadians and Hathors speak through me and to me. And they said, Jessica, the feminine frequency is returning. What has been repressed, oppressed, and forgotten is back in a
Mm.
very big and significant way. It is your
Yes.
job to be leader of this, but not just you, all women. And I
Yes.
really, my book is very much a response to that moment in
Yeah.
Dendera,
Hmm.
um, to say,
Absolutely.
sister, we're going to do this for real, and we're going to do it differently than the way we've been programmed
Absolutely.
to win, to lead in this masculine paradigm, which is just a construct. I say it was written by people who were not us, and it wasn't for us. And
Yeah.
so
Absolutely.
I'm here for the divine feminine rising.
Yeah, it's exactly. We're here for it. That's it.
We're
That's the
here for
title
it.
of our podcast. We're here for it. And it's interesting because there had to be a reinvention that happened for you in order, we tapped in before when we chatted in person and you had the agency simply be. I think maybe behind the scenes you were getting ready to sell it, but it wasn't public. Did that happen after kind of the Egypt experience? Or because if you look at
Yeah.
your business before and you look at even the light work and the embodiment of this divine goddess energy, and even the way the branding is, you have a whole new kind of force. The fonts, everything's different from a brand
Yes.
perspective, but take out branding, right? And just look at the where you were. It was like, I am here to help you market yourself. Here, we're going to personalize your brand. Still very heart based, but now it's just like this goddess energy bursting, flowing from your heart chakra, which I love. There was reinvention in there though. And let's talk to that for you. How did
Yes.
you make it through kind of letting go of the old? And you
Mhm.
sold your business, and you there's so
Did.
many layers to that. And so there's this part where you have to leap. And what I love about you is you do leap. You don't let fear stop you. But there is that leap. Knowing the net will catch you. Talk to that.
It's one of my absolute favorite philosophies in life is leap and know the net will catch you. You and the operative word is leap. You can't jump, tiptoe, take a step.
Right?
It's
Just
like a full body, like
leap.
head to
Yes.
toe, energetic, as above, so below, embodied leap. Um, you know, I want people to read this book and not feel like I should go to Egypt. I mean, I want them to know that they hold the keys to all this in their hands as they read the book. But I will say that trip to Egypt was really the biggest ego identity death of my life. I went to Cairo on a plane. 15 days later, I flew home from Cairo to Chicago, and I was not the same person.
Yeah.
And I really had to integrate that trip. It took me months. I fought with my husband for months because he was like, "Where'd my wife go?" I mean, it was hard to integrate.
Yeah.
I was very blessed while I was doing sort of my own personal integration with my business, the agency, which yes, was this like bright yellow marketing branding, like we're gonna like give you the sparks to your authenticity. And it was totally heart-centered and it was beautiful. It just was no longer me. And in a lot of ways. And I had the blessing of having really incredible managers and leaders that I had put in place in my company that kind of had begun humming, and I'd built the business to become an asset that was able to run without me. And I can't take full credit for Jessica just turned her life around. I had space, I had the capacity because I had the right people in my business running the day to day.
Mm.
And it was from that spaciousness that I got the
Mm.
book deal actually. And I wrote that book in 3 months, and I moved out of Chicago and I moved down to Nashville and spent my days in 10 acres of land at this house we were renting and connected with Gaia on a daily basis, and
Yeah.
decided to host one of my first retreats, Claim Your Light, just out of pure joy and wanting to do that for myself. And it sold out in a month. And I was like, wow, there's something here. I'm starting to see the picture of what I would do with my next phase in life because I'm so clear that who I am becoming is evolving.
Yeah.
And right around that inflection point of time, because the universe is divine, I got a call from a company that was interested in buying my company. And I entertained that call, and it led to an acquisition. And there was a lot going on behind the scenes preparing for the launch of Jay-Z. Like, thank you for commenting on my fonts. That just was like music to
Oh
my
yeah,
ears
you
because
love it. I love it.
I'm like the biggest nerd around that stuff. I love it. It gives me so much
Yes.
joy. And
Yes.
rebranded, my life. And a lot of people from the outside in saw it as like a hard launch. And I'm here for a hard launch. Those are fun. But there was a lot of there was
Yes.
about 6 to 12 months of unraveling and
Ooh,
unbecoming and planning
that's it.
before that moment.
That's the key
Yeah.
piece. I just went through a radical body love with Shannon is a new website I just launched too, and it kind of looks like a whole new hard launch. There's a book coming out kind of with that. I just got the deal, but behind the
Congrats.
scenes, thank you. But that's the thing, like behind the scenes, this has been like 6 to 12 months, 24 of this embodiment behind. And I think that's what we want to kind of, as we start to close down our beautiful conversation today, is everyone's going through something. And I think we feel the ego wants us to feel like we need to know what it looks like. But what I love that you just shared is, I entertained a call. I let the universe kind of show me what would show up. And what I heard was it's this process of I didn't know what was coming, but I knew that I was on the path because I was leading from my heart. And that's what's
Mm.
so beautiful. I feel like that's what love consciousness is. That's what, this whole idea of light work is. I've read the book. The book is amazing. I want you guys to all check it out. Light work, just chapter after chapter, there's just beautiful unfolding. And if it's really for us elevating in our own life in any area that you're feeling like you want elevation, but more importantly, it's helping us rise collectively together. And that's why I love that this book, I love that you're bringing it forward. We talked a little bit about
Thank you.
Gaia. And
Yes.
I have a new deck coming out. I just got from my publisher, Guidance from Gaia. It comes out in October. So
Congrats.
thank you.
That's a dream of mine to have a deck. That's
Yes.
so
Oh,
dope.
we'll talk behind the
Congratulations.
scenes then. I can't wait when you're ready. So I'm so thrilled that
Amazing.
this is coming because as a graphic designer, I was in advertising, as you may know before. So I used to do graphic design. So it's so nice now that I get to like design the deck. But I wanted to pull a card for you, Jessica. So before I do, though, just tap in. So we have this card, and this is the animal spirits and Gaia. There's crystals, flowers, energy healing here. And this is all
Wow.
about reclaiming our roots. This is really my process with this deck. So this one is definitely jumping out. Ooh, we got guidance of the leopard. So we have the beautiful, this is your spirit animal for today. Now we also have some tourmaline crystals back here. See, there's little orbs
Wow.
here. We also have citrine down here. So guidance of the leopard. I have the strength to face any grief. I will find my peace again, one small step at a time. So that's kind
Oh,
of,
that tracks.
yeah,
That
I'll send
tracks.
it to you. It's so beautiful. So
Thank you. Send
you,
that to me, please.
I will. And it comes with a booklet. And I wanted to, I'll take a picture of the booklet for you too. Now,
Beautiful.
thank you for letting me. I was like, before we started, everyone, I was like, can I please draw a spirit animal for you? I just got my deck. She's like, hey,
I
yes.
was like, say less. Please do.
Yes, yes, here we are. So as we close down, I would love for you to just share one other thing that you really feel in your heart needs to be shared.
You know, my book is like, you get it. It's like your baby. And you're like, I can't choose my favorite chapter because it's like choosing your favorite child.
Yeah.
And I've been on so many podcasts and you've really asked so many beautiful questions and thank you for reading it. Um, one of my favorite chapters is the last chapter of the book, which is called Miracles. Go light up the fucking world.
Yeah.
And what's being called to answer your question is what I say in the very last chapter, very last paragraph. And I won't spoil it too much, but I pose to the reader, imagine a woman who whose smile radiates across the room, who beams that confidence that we've been speaking of this conversation, that empowers you to be yourself because she is so empowered in herself. That woman is a light worker, and that woman is a miracle because she has done her work. That is not a woman who has had it easy. And you living your light despite the dark, with the dark, going through the dark is the greatest miracle of them all. So that is what I would leave your audience with. And thank you for
It's
having me today. It was
Thank
such a
you.
gift.
Thank you for being here. And that is really the beautiful piece to end with. If we've done the work, you're doing the work. The work doesn't end, but it's beautiful when we can connect with each other and share. So thank you. Where can people connect in? The book is obviously available. It's released August 8th. Sorry,
August 6th. And I'm
August
hosting,
6th.
no, you're fine. August 6th is a Tuesday. August 8th is
That's
Lionsgate 88. And
that's
it's
it.
my event.
Yes, that's when
And
your
I'm
event is.
hosting a
So
big event. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah. We're
okay.
hosting a
So
massive
you can
virtual
sign up for
event with,
that because we're releasing
yeah,
just a little bit before. So sign up for that and
incredible.
go to your website. Tell people where they can find you online. And of course, I will have all
Yeah.
this in the notes for us, guys.
Incredible. So you can go to jessicazweig.com/breakthrough because the event is called Breakthrough to a New You, and you can buy your ticket. It's $35. It includes the book, and you get 6 hours of a live stream event with Michael Beckwith, Koya Webb, me, and Danielle Page. And it's just going to be, I think, the virtual event of the summer. You can come find me on
Of
Instagram
the
at
of the
Jessica's
decade.
of the like, well, I was doing the math. I'm like 2024 equals 8. So it's 888. And like, we're never going to get that day in our lifetimes again.
Amazing.
So
Yes.
it's pretty major. And it's also Lionsgate, which is this huge portal of activation. 8 is the number of money and wealth and expansion and manifestation.
It's gonna be
So it's going to be
special.
a beautiful celebration. It's going to be. And I have a podcast too, The Spiritual Hustler. Shannon, you'll come back on my show when it's time to share your book with the world.
Yeah, thank you.
And even if you want to come on and talk about your deck, we can do that. And I would
Oh,
love to
cool.
support
Well,
you in
cool.
any way.
Thank you.
Yeah, but
It's
come find me.
Yeah, it's definitely someone you want in your circle supporting you. Jessica is such a light guiding you, and it's a soul sister. She's there. Her spirit is such a beautiful gift to this world. So thank you for coming and guiding us. And I love you so much. And have a beautiful launch.
Thank you so much. I am beyond grateful for your sisterhood, and this conversation was one of my favorites I've had. So thank you for having me.